And we're back with another video. And now the plan for today is to finally get this engine back into the car. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you would have seen that I've been doing an NA+T build on this engine here. I've got all the water and oil lines sorted out for the turbo for now. I'm not completely happy with the water lines, but I'm going to change that out in the car. Now, as you can see, I've got all the B-Series stuff back on. B-Series intake manifold, fuel rail, and all the coils. Now, I do have all FG turbo stuff to go on, intake manifold, fuel rail, and coil packs, as well as a rocker cover. But before I go putting all of that on, I want to make sure that the engine runs. Just because I've had it apart, I've done the valve springs in this and the oil pump gears in the front, which I've never done before. So it's all new to me, and also obviously had to set up the timing again. So I want it back in the car and know that it all runs before I end up taking it to the tuners. And because I'm using FG stuff, none of it is compatible with the B-Series. The injectors are different size, so they won't fit into the B-Series fuel rail and vice versa. If I go putting in the FG turbo fuel rail, I'll have to use the turbo injectors, which I'm not sure if are going to run or even start for that matter in the car. So just to be safe, I've put all the B-Series stuff back on just to get the car started and running, and then I can change out the intake side in the car. So now it's finally time to get this thing back in the car. I have been doing little bits and pieces before and after work during the last couple of weeks. And one of the things I've done is move the transmission cooler that I had mounted up the front here. One reason I've moved it is because I've got to get a intercooler in there, so that's going to make room for that. But the second reason is it was doing too good a job up the front. It was keeping the transmission fluid too cool. I need to try and get some heat into it, which sounds a bit strange, but up the front, the transmission was only seeing temperatures of about 50 degrees, 50 to 55 degrees, which is too cool for the ZF. You sort of want the fluid to be running, well, you do want the fluid to be running warmer than that. I think it's supposed to be up around the 80 degree mark, maybe even closer to 90. So I'm hoping that moving it there will try and get some heat into it, and yeah, just be better for the ZF in the long run. So I'm hoping that that clears the intake manifold when it goes in. The only issue I'm sort of worried about is that looped fitting on the back there, but hoping that'll clear. If not, I can loosen off the cooler and just let it sit down so the engine fits in for now. But I'm pretty confident that the FG turbo intake manifold is a little bit less profile, so I think that manifold will clear. But the B-Series one, I won't know till I get the actual engine in the car. Now I'll be fitting a transmission temperature gauge to that as well down the track, so I can keep monitor of that fluid. But yeah, for now, at least it's all moved, and hopefully it'll help it where it is. But that's a job for another day. The plan today is, like I said, to get this thing back in the car. So let's get into it. I'm going to move some tools around. We'll get the engine crane out and yeah, start lifting it up, finally. All right, got the engine all hanging in the air, ready to go. But I can't go just slapping it back in because I need to change out the rear main seal. I've got a new one ready to go, so I'm going to do that. As you can see here, this is an aftermarket one. I've got a genuine one to go in. So I'll change that out, and then I can put the sandwich plate and flex plate back on and tighten those up. And I've also got to tighten up the harmonic balancer on the front as well. Okay, got the old seal out. Came out pretty easy, just gently with a screwdriver. The last time I did one of these, someone called me the butcher for getting it out with a screwdriver. But yeah, come out easy, no damage whatsoever. So now we can put the new one in. Again, this is another genuine seal. For seals like this where you can't really get to, I always try and get a genuine one. Never use these fucking aftermarket things because they just don't last. So here we go, got the seal ready to go. Just need to push him in. I'm obviously gonna have to do this with two hands, so I'll put the phone down and get it in. Okay, rear main seal's all in now. Just tap that in with the old seal, just on the back of the old seal, and it went in nicely. And I've also put the little dowels in there into the block, so they just locate the sandwich plate. I've given that a little bit of a clean up, so we'll get that on. Just get that side on, and then this side, and there we go. Sandwich plate is on. So now the last thing to do on the back of the engine is get the flex plate on. The bolts that I took out of it had Loctite on it, so this has obviously been taken out before, but I've got some spare ones here. These are out of another engine, and yeah, they don't come with Loctite from the factory. But I might put some Loctite on these just to make sure they don't come loose. So what I'll do is I'll just sit this on, get the bolts in just loosely by hand, and then I can take them out one by one, put some Loctite on them, and then when they're all in, I'll torque them up to spec. Now apologies for the lighting, but the engine's facing the complete wrong way to film anything, but you get the gist of it. So I'm just setting the flex plate on the back here, and as you can see, just got to line the holes up, but they only line up at a certain rotation of the flex plate. So as you can see there, they're not perfectly lined up. So you just need to rotate the plate until they all line up perfectly. You can see that one there's off, so that's not it. And that's bang on. So they're all lined up there. So now I'll get the bolts in just by hand, like I said, and then we'll look at getting some sealant on them. Alrighty, got all the bolts in like I said. I'm just going to put some Loctite on each one individually and get them all the way in. And then when they're all in, I'll torque them up to spec. Now these Barras are notorious for the bolts coming loose when they get a bit of power in them, so I've got plenty of Loctite on there. So it's a bit hard doing this with one hand, so you get the gist of it. I'll get them all in and then we'll torque them up. There we go. Got the flex plate bolts all torqued up. So now we just got to get up front and tighten up the harmonic balancer, and this thing is ready to go back in. Alright, we've got all the flex plate at the back done. Now we're at the front and we can actually see what we're doing, which is good. So I've taken out the bolt for the harmonic balancer, as you can see, but you do need to get some sealant in here, mainly through this little keyhole here and just on the end of where the thread sits. So I've got some of my black stuff here, so I'm just going to get some of that on, and then we'll get the bolt in and tighten it up, and this thing will be ready to go in the car. So I've got the trusty little Bible here, and as you can see there, apply sealant to the harmonic balancer, and then we'll torque it up to spec. And there we have it. Harmonic balancer is all torqued up. So when you torque that up, obviously the engine wants to rotate, so all I do is I just use a breaker bar on the back here on one of the bolts of the flex plate. I'll just set the breaker bar up like that, rotate it around until it hits the floor and just holds there. And then you just get your, and then I've got my torque wrench here set up ready to go. Hopefully the breaker bar doesn't fall off the back. I've done this with two hands, which it did. I'll just set it up and then I'll show you. Okay, so this is how I've set it up. Breaker bar's on there. It's got a little bit of tension on it, so it's actually wedged in place on the floor. Torque wrench is in. And actually I've got a bit of more of an angle. Easy. Okay, so now we've got the balancer on. It's time to finally get this thing up and into the car. So I've just gone and wiped all the surface of the gearbox, wiped out inside the bell housing. Got all the bolts there ready to go. They've been soaked in vinegar and I've just sprayed them with WD-40, so they're all ready to go. Now I'm not going to film too much of actually getting it up and into the car. I just want to get it in, but I'll see if I can get some little bits and pieces along the way. So I'll get cracking. Alrighty, so that lowered in pretty well, first go. Got my missus out here giving me a hand, she's just keeping it all nice and square. Pretty happy with where we're at. So we'll put the phone down and keep going, and hopefully it'll just pop into place. Main thing is I've just got to keep my eye on that fitting against the side of the manifold. We'll see how we go. And there we go. What an absolute mission that was. So I had my missus out here for a good hour and a half, close to 2 hours, trying to get this thing all lined up. Trying to just take it easy. I ended up taking off the engine mount brackets just because everything was getting caught, and the seatbelt strap that I was using just kept slipping. So I couldn't actually get the engine to sit anywhere I would want it to sit. But we got there in the end. I ended up putting a piece of chain on, so the chain actually grabs onto the links, so the engine couldn't slip to where we didn't want it. So we got it in the end. Got a couple of bolts in the bell housing now, so it's all good. Just need to get the engine mount brackets back in, but what I'll do is I'm going to move the chain to the front here, and that way I can just lift up the front of the engine and get those in. But main thing is, it's all in. Okay, we're slowly making some progress. I've got the passenger side engine mount all back in, just haven't got the bolt through the bottom and tightened up, but the mount is in with the rubber. But the driver's side one is a bit of a pain just because of the turbo housing, the way the wastegate outlet is. So I think I'm going to have to take the turbo off to put the engine mount in, which is a bit of a pain in the ass because there's no way I can get in behind the turbo and get the engine mount on. So unfortunately, turbo's going to have to come out, and then I can get the engine mount on and then put the turbo back in. Alrighty, got the turbo off. I guess it's good practice because I'll need to change out this engine mount bracket to an AU one in the future anyway. So it wasn't hard to do. Now I can get the engine mount on to the bracket and bolt it to the block. There we go. Got the engine mount brackets in. The engine is bolted in and the crane is now out the way. So it's finally back in the car. Now I can get the turbo back on, and then I can start look at plumbing up the heater hoses and getting this thing ready to fire up. So first thing I'll do is get stuck in and get the turbo back on, and then we'll be looking good. Okay, not sure if you can tell, but it's the next morning now. I've got all the turbo back on, as you can see, so that's all bolted in now. Now all I've got left to do is put all the bell housing bolts in around the back of the engine, and basically just do the small things like put the radiator back in, little bits and pieces like that. But today we should be able to get this thing started, fingers crossed. So that's the turbo sitting in there now, and as you can see there's plenty of room there, sort of between the housing of the turbo and the shock tower there, heaps of room. If I hadn't known there was that much room, I would have left the turbo off in the first place, and that way I would have had easy access to get the engine mounts in. But yeah, at least I know now that I can get it in and out easily if I need to, so that's a good thing. But like I said, I want to get this started today, at least go to start it. We need to get some oil pressure and make sure all that's all good. So I'm not really going to film too much, I just want to get this thing ready to sort of fire up. I'll probably try and record a couple of little bits and pieces along the way, but yeah, like I said, I just mostly want to get it all finished. So I'll make a start and then we'll come back once I've got a few bits and pieces done. Okay, making some progress. I'm not sure if you can see the light flickering, but I've got a big LED light here that I'm using so I can see, but I think it reflects, it doesn't show up very well with the camera. But we're making some progress. Got the starter motor in, all the bolts are in along the bottom of the bell housing. I had one bolt each side of the engine mount brackets to put in, so I've done those. So all the engine mounts are done. So now the last thing to do is, if you know, you know, this bloody thing. That's a whole bunch of 1/2 inch extensions. So I've got to get the two top bell housing bolts in. So now I'll slide underneath, get that transmission mount in, get the bell housing bolts in, and then I also need to run the wiring across the transmission so I can get the plug into the mechatronics plug on the gearbox. And then we should be pretty close. I've also already plugged in the fuel lines. So we're really not too far away from getting this thing fired up. Well, seeing if it will start. So I'll stop babbling and I'll get into it. Okay, everything underneath the car is done. I've just tightened up all the flex plate bolts. I've put all the bolts in the bell housing. I haven't changed the transmission mount because I may have to tip the engine back again to change out this wiring harness when I get to do that, because I'll need to get to the head temp sensor, which is almost impossible to do with the engine just sitting here. So it's sitting on the mount. That'll be fine for now. I can change that out once the other harness is in and I've done the intake manifold. But this thing is almost ready to try and fire up. So there's just a couple of things left to do. I've just got to put on a heater hose, which I've got here. I've got a plastic FG T-piece here to feed the heater bypass. So I've just got to put that into the line. I do have the aluminium one that I bought, but I'll swap that out later. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this hard line. I don't think I am. I think I'm going to change it when I do the manifold, so this will do just for now. Plug the alternator back in. I've just got the wiring for that here. I've just sort of taped up the loom and get it out. So here's the loom. I've just gone over it with some tape. Just that, I don't know what they call it, but it's, yeah, sort of flame-proof tape, I think, just to tidy that up. So I just got to plug that in and make sure that's all good. And then I'll change out the oil filter. I've already loosened this one off. That's been loose since the car's been on the stand. So we'll get that out, put a new one on, and then we'll look at getting some new oil into it with some water and hopefully start it. How exciting. Okay, we are really close now. Got the expansion tank in, alternators all wired up, got the radiator in and the thermo fans, which I've just reminded myself to plug in. And all I've got to do now, I've got a new oil filter here to go on, so I'm going to put some oil on the seal and get that on. And then I'm going to fill up the radiator with some fresh water. We're on rainwater here, so it's good water anyway. Plus I'm going to drain it again once I know it's all running and everything, and put some coolant in. But yeah, we're pretty close. What I've done is I've taken out the fuel pump relay. So that's it just there. It just slots out of this spot here in the fuse box. I've taken that out, and I'm also going to disconnect all the coil packs along the top, so there's no chance of it firing. And I'm going to get my missus out here to turn it over, and I'm just going to take off the oil feed to the turbo, and hopefully we'll see some oil come out of there, and then we'll know we've got oil pressure. And then if that's all good and we do get oil come out of there, we'll plug the fuel pump relay in, plug in the coil packs, and hopefully this thing will run. So I'll get the filter on, get some water, and then I'll get my missus out here and we'll see how we go. Pretty exciting. Now, because I've had the oil pump off and I haven't done that before, just sort of winged it, I've got to make sure I've got oil pressure before I go starting the thing properly. So I've just disconnected the oil feed for the turbo, as you can see here, just there. And all I'm going to do is put it into this bottle, and yeah, hopefully we'll see some oil come out into the bottle. If we do, then we know we've got oil pressure, enough pressure to push the oil up through there. And that should mean that we should be able to try and fire it up, so we'll be able to plug the coil packs in and the fuel pump relay. Fingers crossed. So I'll go get the missus and yeah, see how we go. Kind of nervous. Alright, the time has come. I am so fucking nervous. I've got my little helper in the car, ready to go. So she's just going to turn the engine over, and we'll see if we get any oil come out of here. Alright, I'll just connect the battery. Alright, battery is connected. We've got power in the car. This is pretty fucking nerve-wracking. We shall see what happens. Alright, here we go. First turn of the key. Let's do it. Alright, let's keep going. Hang on. Oh, we've just stopped and we've got a bit of seepage, so we'll go again. Go, baby. Here we go. Oh, you beauty. Stop. Oh, you beauty. Oh, all right. We're going to connect all this up and see if we can get it to fire. I'm shaking. I'm bloody nervous, but that's a good sign. Okay, got all the injectors plugged in. We'll plug the fuel pump relay in and we will see what happens. Now if it starts, it's going to be a bit loud because there's no exhaust on. And that's also a thing too, we've had all the timing chain off, and so I've never done that before either, so it's going to be a first. So let's turn the key and see what happens. Here we go, first startup. Keep going, it's just got to pump fuel up because there's been no fuel in it. Huh? I don't know, try again. Missus got a little bit paranoid in there, so we'll give it another go, see what happens. Okay, well, that was a bit of an epic fail, but my missus went to walk off inside and I was getting a bit frustrated, but she spotted all the fuel that was in the tank has pissed out underneath. So I must have connected the fuel hoses wrong underneath, and yeah, the fuel's just pissed out underneath. So I'm going to have to get underneath and suss that out, and then we'll, I think it might be out of fuel now, so I'm going to need to get some fuel and try it again. You have got to be kidding me. I've just slid under the car, and you have got to be kidding me. There's the problem. Not sure what's happened there. I'll have to clip this back on. I'm sure I clipped these on. There we go. Now the car's going to be out of fuel. I'll turn it over and see what happens, but if not, I might have to go down and get some more fuel. I'm sure I clipped these in properly. Maybe they're on the wrong line. I'll try it again and see what happens. Alright, it's just me out here now. Like I said, I don't know if there's any fuel left in it, but we'll turn the key and see what happens. That's a good sign. I'll just check that line again. Alright, we're still connected and it went to fire. I'm assuming that we just went to prime again because there would have been no fuel from having it disconnected. So I'll get up top and we'll try it one more time. Alright, here we go. Come on, baby. God, what a fucking sigh of relief that was. Oh my God. Talk about emotions. Man, because I've not done the timing on these before, I thought I'd done something wrong and the timing was all out, and I could smell fuel, but I didn't think to look underneath. I just thought it was just over fueling into the throttle body and just not starting. So it was lucky my missus went to go inside and spotted the fuel underneath. I just want to turn the key now that we're all primed up and see if it fires first pop again. Oh, what a relief. Here we go. Holy fuck. Sick. Fuck yeah. Oh my Lord. What a bloody ball of emotions that was. But we are all sorted. It's starting first pop now, so it was just that fuel hose. For some reason I mustn't have connected it right the first time, but when I got under that second time when it was hanging, you would have seen that it clipped in beautifully, and it didn't do that the first time, but I just assumed that it was on there properly. But it's all good. I think it was the return line, the black one. I could be wrong, but yeah, all sorted now. We've got no leaks or anything, which is good. I just let it run for a little bit and just looked underneath. We've got nothing leaking out. Everything seems to be all good, which is fucking awesome. So now I'll be able to move on and start getting some other things done, start moving on to the fun stuff. I've got a whole exhaust system to put in. We've got front mount intercooler, turbo side intake, battery relocation kit as well. And I should be able to get all the FG stuff on, hopefully. I'm just trying to find out now if I can put the FG turbo intake on, and even if I put the FG standard turbo injectors back in, just to get this, I want to keep it running. I don't want it to sort of just sit here and not be able to start it. I just want to get the FG stuff on because I need to mock up all the intercooler hoses, and they need to be mocked up onto the proper manifold that they're going onto. So I'll probably do some research and see if I can get it started with all this stuff off and the FG stuff on. But that'll be it for now. Main thing is it's running, it's all good. It was just that fuel hose that we've seen. But that'll be it for today. Like I said, I'll probably look in to see if I can get the FG stuff on there because I want to get stuck into that. I don't really want to leave this on there for too long. And it's probably looking closer now to getting it booked in for tuning as well. But I will have to get the dump pipe fabricated up as well. So yeah, plenty of stuff to get done. But the main thing is it's starting. Pretty fucking happy, and we'll be able to move on to the other stuff and yeah, slowly get this thing back on the road. Cannot wait to drive it. Pretty stoked.